In the process of classical multi-layer painting, there are moments when it feels like magic is happening. Moments when you feel like a wizard performing a miracle. Maybe that sounds a bit too dramatic, but anyway. My name is Nick, this is my art channel, and today I'd like to share these moments with you. For me, those moments have always been the first color glazing and the first full layer of color. Now I'm continuing to work on my master copy of Matteo Rosselli's painting, and at this stage the dead layer has completely dried, so I'm going to bring the image to life with a warm glaze. As you know, glazing is a thin transparent layer of paint that acts as a color filter. Summer is coming soon, we'll all put on our sunglasses, and the world around us, as seen through them, will take on colors corresponding to the tint of the lenses through which we view it. This simple example explains the principle of glazing. Now you can see how a cold, lifeless, black and white image is transformed right before our eyes. Isn't that magic? And what makes this process especially delightful is that it's quick and easy. I remember how long and meticulously I worked on creating the dead layer of this painting. By the way, you can watch this process in one of my previous videos. And now, in less than a minute, just a few brush strokes radically changed this image, breathing life into it and removing the deathly pallor of the black and white grisaille. Unfortunately, the camera isn't capable of fully capturing this transformation. When I filmed this video, I wanted to demonstrate the principle of color glazing using this red fabric as an example. But much to my disappointment, the color changes are practically imperceptible on screen. As a reminder, the base color of this fabric is vermilion, which had a rich, fiery orange hue. And now I am applying a transparent layer of Madder Lake over it, thanks to which the rope will acquire a rich, noble wine red hue. This technique was widely used during the Baroque era. Back then, for red fabrics, artists would create a colored base layer using a thick, opaque paint, vermilion or cinnabar, and then adjust and deepen the hue by glazing with transparent paints, carmine or Madder Lake. This created a stunning optical effect of glowing from within. This occurred for the following reason. Rays of light pass through the transparent top layer and, reflecting off the dense layer of vermilion or cinnabar, returned, combining within themselves the full richness of the spectrum. In this work of mine, I am trying to achieve the same effect. And the most frustrating thing is that I succeeded in doing so. I see it with my own eyes in reality, but the camera, unfortunately, doesn't capture it. So, to see this transformation, try doing this yourself. Apply a stroke of vermilion or cadmium red light, let it dry completely, and glaze over it with carmine or Madder Lake, and you will see it for yourself. You'll witness this magic. Usually, when it comes to glazing, the first question people ask is which medium to use. In reality, the more accurate question is which paints to use, because the medium is a secondary consideration. The main thing is to use transparent pigments. Every tube always has a square mark on it. If the square is white, it means that the paint is transparent and best suited for this technique. As for the medium, use the one you use in your work. For me, that's mostly linseed oil. So, back to my work. After the first glaze, I begin creating the first thick colorful layer. As we know, in multi-layered painting, thin transparent layers alternate with thick opaque ones. That's why I enlivened the dense that layer with a transparent warm glazing, and on top of it, I will begin applying a dense colorful layer which will serve as a solid foundation for a further, more delicate and precise work on the face. I know that at this stage of the work many people have questions and misunderstandings. To be honest, I often feel a bit lost at this point myself. But I think that's absolutely natural. After all, the fact is that up until this point we've essentially been working without color. First a monochromatic brown underpainting, then a black and white grisaille or another type of dead layer, practically colorless painting. So it's completely understandable that when adding color, it's very easy to get lost. What I suggest at this stage is not to overload the palette with an abundance of colors, so as not to confuse yourself. Simplify things as much as possible. It seems to me that the best solution here might be a limited palette: yellow, red, black and white. These colors are more than enough for a realistic depiction of skin tones. Of course, there are many approaches to working with color, many techniques, many methods. In this case, my strategy will be as follows. I'll work on the light areas using the basic skin tones I mixed on the palette, and I will deepen the shadows with paint without using white to preserve depth, transparency and warmth. And in the areas where the form turns in the penumbra, I will allow the dead layer to show through slightly, which will provide the cool undertone necessary for the penumbra. The dead layer will also show through slightly in the lower part of the face, which, as you may have noticed, almost always has cool bluish gray tones. The forehead is usually more yellowish, while the central part of the face, the ears, cheeks and nose, often has a large amount of reddish tones. Keep this in mind when painting portraits, it really helps you navigate the necessary tones. This stage of the work is very enjoyable. You can see how the painting finally begins to transform. You manipulate the paint on the canvas, watching the hues blend together. What could be more enjoyable? Although, to reiterate, I am well aware that this stage can also be very stressful, because very often the visual differences between what emerges at this stage and the vision of what the final result should look like are so stark that it can make you doubt the painting's potential success. But don't get discouraged and don't rush to conclusions. Remember that this is still only an intermediate stage, so don't expect a world-class masterpiece just yet. The best is yet to come. Patience and perseverance are crucial here, I think. To my mind, the more we give to the painting, the more it gives back in return. This is a very important stage of the work, so give it the attention it deserves. Don't rush. It seems to me that this kind of painting doesn't tolerate hurrying. There is a completely different philosophy here. It's certainly not a 21st century philosophy. Alright, my friends. Even though, unfortunately, the camera couldn't fully capture and illustrate everything I've been talking about, I hope you at least grasped my idea and that it helped you even a little. And if you have any questions, as usual, write them in the comments, I'll be sure to answer everything. And for now, I wish you all the best and see you in the next videos. Bye.